Gruber. Oh, what's this?
This is London.
It's wonderful. Aunt Lucy always dreamed of coming to London. If she saw this, it would be like she were finally here. Aunt Lucy!
Oh, Paddington.
This is perfect. I've had a brilliant idea. I'm going to get a job and buy that book for Aunt Lucy's birthday. Hello? Window cleaner?
Ow.
Are you quite sure you're ready for the workplace, Paddington?
It's Phoenix Buchanan.
Dad's celebrity client.
I suppose you know who I am.
Oh, yes. You're a very famous actor.
VIP, celebrity.
Or used to be. Now you do dog food commercials.
This pop-up book, where on earth did you find it?
Mr. Gruber's antique shop.
Stop! Freeze!
Hold it right there.
Oh, but I'm not the thief.
Mysterious things have been happening all over town.
We're rich again.
I may look like a hardened criminal, but I'm innocent.
We're going to need a foolproof plan.
If anyone can recognize a criminal, it's us.
He's a master of disguise.
What?
This is breaking and entering!
I haven't broken anything.
Where do you think you're going, Bear?
Paddington wouldn't hesitate if any of us needed help.
He looks for the good in all of us.
Marmalade.
Take a seat. Come on, Wolfie.
Ow.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Paddington 2 movie review. Now, first off, I do need to state that this was a reward for the Extra Life 2020, I guess my charity campaign, I guess. This person who requested this donated for me to do a movie review for Paddington 2. And the username was Knuckles McGinty, which at the time I did not realize, but this is in fact a character in this movie. Also, pardon if you hear any noises. You might hear some noises in the background. Not much I can do about them, unfortunately, but I just finished watching Paddington 2, and I wrote down some notes that I am going to use. The first time I've actually written down notes for a review. Normally I just watch it, then immediately after go ahead, but since someone did pay, I wanted to make sure I did a thorough job. And by the way, just to clarify, in case anyone does not know, Extra Life is a charity organization. Did a thing back in October. I had it open from October to December for people to be able to donate for charity for the kids. So, Paddington 2. So this movie is really well made. The first thing I am going to talk about is the fact that critically, so I want to make sure I state the difference here. Critically, not the people, but critically, this movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you don't know what Rotten Tomatoes is, you can look it up. Rotten Tomatoes is a website where reviewers, or they either gather information or reviewers go to review movies. And for critics have this movie at 100%. Now that is pretty rare. You don't get a lot of 100% movies on Rotten Tomatoes, or 100% movies in general. Unfortunately, though, with audiences, this movie only has about an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. So just so you know, in case you don't, It's 100% critically, which is more impressive than 100% with the people who watch the audience. This is going well. The audience, it's a lot easier to get 100%, especially if you have less of. But critically, this is 100%. I'm gonna get the boring stuff out of the way for most people off the start, just quickly. This movie is very, very well directed and very, very well shot. I'm not gonna go into too many specifics because I know a lot of people won't know what those specifics are. And I don't have all the terminology on the top of my head right now. It is 4:38 in the morning, so I don't have all the brain capacity to think about the terminology. But it's very, very well shot. Everything's kept in frame. Everything is... It's very... bottom line, it's very, very well shot. And I think that's part of the reason why it's critically acclaimed. And I've heard from several people, mainly one person in particular, may or may not be the person who asked for this movie review after donating, but that classes have actually referenced this movie for camera work when they talk about shots and when they talk about certain things. At least one class that I have heard of, which is one more than most, but I'm sure it probably is used more than just once, for probably plenty of classes and referenced by directors and such at points. It was used as a point to show good camera work and how to properly make a movie. I have at least one gripe, which I guess you could throw it out in the movie, but we'll get to that later. First, let's start talking about this movie. So the villain. The villain is not my favorite in this movie. He's kind of in between. I don't think that any intentional, I don't think he's purposely trying to hurt anybody in this movie. Not saying that he does. But his goal is not to do that. His goal is to basically follow a treasure, and he wants the end result, which is the treasure. So I think he's just blinded by the reward. And for me personally, which is perfectly fine, it works in this movie. Don't get me wrong, it works very well in this movie. But I've seen more impressive villains. One that I know a lot of people probably don't really notice as a villain is actually another movie review I've done. If you want to check it out, if I can remember, I'll put it in the description. I don't know if I'll be able to. But the villain of The Queen's Corgi, which is a great movie in my opinion. The villain of that, though, is a lot more shocking in my opinion. It's the villain is kind of extremely violent as well for a kid's not a kid's movie, a family movie. I need to make sure I stress that this movie as well. I want to stress. Speaking of, this is a family movie. This is also a kid's movie, but this is a family movie. I'd recommend, if you have this would be a good movie to watch with your family. Not that there's any difference, but Queen's Corgi is not really a kid's movie. It's a family movie. It's meant to be watched with adults if there are young kids watching, and most kids won't get the dirty jokes in that movie because they're too young. But yeah, that's beside the point. This is not a Queen's Corgi movie review, but I am comparing it to that because if you've watched that, you know how I feel on the Queen's Corgi, and I really like that movie. Now, the difference is this is live action with, yes, of course, CGI elements, but this movie is more impressive in the camera work aspect of it, and I can't stress that enough. You can say you like a shot, but when people take a movie and they say this is how it's meant to be done, and these are anyone for that matter who knows how camera angles work and framing and all the stuff you need to know when you're filming. It's quite impressive. But the villain, back to the villain. What I do like is in his attic, he is an actor. And in his attic, he has all of his characters on dummies. You know, mannequins. Dummies. Who you calling dummy? If you got that reference, bonus points to you. Although, you could technically say any dummy-related, ventriloquist dummy-related thing, but I'm referencing one thing in particular. A TV show. I'll give you that hint. If you want to know, stick to the end of the video. Why not? I don't normally do this, but I'll say what I was referencing at the end of the video. Because why not? Someone just skips to the end. Oh well. But anyway, he has all of his costumes on there, and he uses them throughout the movie as disguise methods, which a couple jokes actually come out of that, and it is quite funny. It is very tickety-boo, which I'll explain that as well. Man, the person who donated is gonna have a field day with this. I can already tell they're gonna like it, just because I said tickety-boo. Most people won't understand that, but don't worry, you don't need to. So let me look here. So he dresses up as a nun at one point, and there is this guy, this security guard, and he is explaining what happened to somebody. I'm gonna not say who, because I'm avoiding spoiler details here. So character names, plot, and such, I'm gonna try to keep out of it. There's gonna be very few names I mention, unless I absolutely need to, just so that you have a reason to watch this movie. He dresses up as a nun, and the guard's telling the story, and so obviously this is a guy. The villain is a guy, and he is dressed up as a nun, and he calls the nun the most stunning sister he has ever seen, or something along those lines, and it's good. That's a good joke. So one on the movie side there. Speaking of jokes, hold on, let me see. Okay. Well, let me finish with the villain before I go into other jokes. So he has all his costumes, and it does become a little thing later that some characters use as information when they find his attic, which is good. Good storytelling there. Having aspects appear earlier in the movie and then using them later in the movie as a way to further the plot. That is very good storytelling, and really appreciate it too, because if you look at some movies, some details will never ever come back. They'll say a detail, and then you think it's important, or you want to know more about that, how it comes out, and they won't ever finish those details. This movie is very good about not only finishing story arcs, even if it's in the credits, because some things are finished in the credits in like a book opens up, and it has like a scrapbook, and it gives details on small, minute things that people might not care about completely, but it wraps up a story, even with an end credit scene that also wraps up some information, not super important information, mind you, but it wraps up information from earlier in the film, and it, if not wrapping it up, uses information that's talked about and completes the story. I could not find, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't entirely looking, I was enjoying the movie, but I cannot find anything that's not complete in this movie. Everything that is talked about comes back around. So that is very, very good storytelling, and a great way to make a movie, because it makes the movie stand out. You can have a good kids movie, but when you finish your story beats, it makes it stand out. So, but anyway, the villain is not the best, and that's just my personal opinion. He works for this movie well, but and it's also kind of a comedic aspect to it, but I think that's where the villain just falls a little bit flat, is he doesn't take himself seriously enough. And that's fine for a kid's movie, understandably. And that's not the highlight of this movie. The actor who played him, fantastic. Again, not on his acting skills or ability, and the jokes that come out of it are great, but just the villain in general for here is just a little bit lackluster. When you're watching, you're not going to mind. Trust me, I didn't mind. You're not going to really care. But the villain is not like it's not the best villain, but to be fair, it is a kid's movie, and this movie has so much other things going for it that the villain just being a little bit down, like not the best, isn't going to hurt anything. And when you watch the end credit scene, I think that's where it really hits. It's meant to be a joke, obviously, but in the end credit scene, I could really tell the villain just didn't really take himself seriously enough. And I think that's the whole point, mind you, but again, just my personal opinion. So, speaking of things coming back around, now we're going to go through everything that I can mention. So, earlier in the movie, Paddington is trying to get a job, and he's he's in a barber salon type place. And this guy comes in, and, he's like, oh, I'm not the barber. I just do, light cleaning. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's what I want. Just a little bit off the sides and off the top. And then some crazy stuff happens, like cord around the fan, just a lot of stuff happens. And then he ends up cutting up his hair, like from the back middle up to the top middle. So there's just a little line up. He puts some marmalade on the guy's head and then puts the hair back. And yeah, it didn't really go well. Turns out that later in the movie, Paddington is in a courtroom for some reason, and the courtroom judge is the same person who had his cut hair. So that is important for a reason. That right there in the courtroom, it's important for Paddington to have a good-minded judge at this point. And obviously, with past instances happening, the judge is not going to be very minded. They mention it a little bit, like Mr. Brown, which is not naming characters, although that is naming a character, so I guess this is one of the instances where I'm going to name a character. Paddington says that Mr. Brown says as long as they have a like-minded judge, then everything will be fine. Which, obviously, you get judge that has something against Paddington is not going to like him too much. That's good storytelling. Again, something that came back around, which is very much appreciated. Okay, so the next scene that come around, I'm doing this in particular order, so I'll get around to some other stuff. Let's see. Oh, okay, a coin. So, and by the way, I'm probably not gonna cut out my there. It's just something I do. I don't normally cut out that type of stuff when I do movie reviews, as well as it is getting quite late. So I'm gonna pretty much edit this, then go and edit the video portion, and then, just go ahead and get this up onto YouTube, because then I have to do other stuff while it's on YouTube. So, but the coin. One of my favorite minor things in this movie is this coin. At the very beginning, Mrs. Brown, I believe it is, could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Mrs. Brown. No, it's not. Not Mrs. Brown. Another lady who lives in the house, part of the family. I don't remember her name, which is kind of funny because the villain in this movie can't remember her name ever, too. So that's actually kind of ironic. When you watch the movie, you'll understand. But that's kind of funny. She says, did you clean behind your ears? And then pulls a coin out from behind her ear. And then she's like, oh. He's like, oh, how did that get in there? And then later he needs money, and he's like, he pulls it out of his ear, and he's like, this person found this in my ear this morning. Maybe there's more in there. And starts hitting his head. Then puts it back. But the really, really kind of key aspect, which in a way is kind of important, It actually kind of is at the point in the movie to further the plot, but it's such a minor thing people probably wouldn't think about it. He pulls the coin out of his ear to use it to call the Brown family at their house at one point in the movie. And it's kind of key that he had that coin there, because if he didn't, he wouldn't have been able to call, and what followed wouldn't have been able to happen. It's such a small thing, but it continues the plot. So the fact that he got it at the beginning of the movie and then toward the end of the movie he uses it to help him get in contact with the Brown family is kind of important. And I appreciate that. The little things, speaking of the movie, the little things that came out, the little things are what matter. You know, you miss the little things. It can ruin, it can break, it can ruin your movie. You miss one detail. You forget to CGI in one hand. I'm referencing Cats there. They forgot to CGI more than just one hand, and I haven't seen the movie fully, but yeah, it can ruin your movie. It's good to make sure you have all your covered angles, and to be fair, the coin could have just been written off. He could have just pulled it out of his pocket. He could have found it on the side of the road, but they incorporated it into the story to give it more of an emotional value, to give a little bit more than what you think you would need, you know, which is very important. And it's not like it's going to break the movie, especially for a kid's movie, but it's very good that they did that for a kid's movie. It's very nice. Another thing, some candy apples. Earlier in the movie, Paddington is eating a candy apple. Not necessarily a candy apple. What are they called? I guess they're called candy apple. It's those apples that are dipped in something, and then, you know, I'm just gonna call it a candy apple. Hopefully, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe that's exactly what it's called. But he takes a bite of it, or he puts it and it's stuck into his mouth, and then it gets, you know, stuck in his mouth, and then he bites and takes off the apple in one fell swoop. Well, later in the movie, he uses candy apples that he finds as a way to stick to things. That's a small detail that not a lot of people probably would notice, but that's important. I mean, that wraps a story up. That, you know, that wraps a story up. I know I'm kind of babbling here, but don't worry. I mean, it's fine. But that's cool. It's not really important, but it's really cool that they did that. It makes it the story worth second viewing even. You know, you missed that, or you're like, wait, did he have candy apple earlier? You go back and watch, and he had it. It's a really cool aspect of the movie. One line I wanted to bring up. The same woman who, the reason why she doesn't like the villain is because he is an actor, and she does not like it, and she says because actors lie for a living. That really stuck out to me. That is a different viewpoint on acting, but it is 100% true. Actors lie. They lie to everybody. It's a good type of lying. Sorry, I'm turning off my controller so I don't waste batteries. Sorry about that, because I was I was watching on my Xbox, and it started to go black, and it's my light source right now. So yeah, but that right there is a really little neat detail to think about. A different viewpoint on actors. Most people won't think of it that way, will you? You think, oh, they're just, you know, they're acting. That's what acting is. But acting is lying. In a way, you're becoming someone who you're not. You're becoming a false version of a character. You're not who you are. You are this fictional character. You're portraying this character, you know. And in a way to think about when you have based on true story movies, you know. And especially if they get the true stories wrong, you're definitely lying about those stories, or when the action heavy portions come in those movies that didn't happen in the real life versions. They're lying about that. It's not something that people really care about, but it's, again, a little neat detail. Actors do lie. It's a different way to think about it, and hopefully it'll make you think a little bit too about acting. Not that I want you to think that actors are bad, but it's just something that gets your mind going. Like, when you really think about it, think of your favorite movies. The actors are lying. They're lying about who they are in that instance. They're not themselves. Not that anyone cares, but again, a little neat detail. It's all tickety-boo. And now tickety-boo comes in. So, not to get into the story too much, but it is a line that's said in the movie. And it is just fun to say. Hopefully after this you'll just start saying tickety-boo. And tickety-boo just kind of means, what I take it to mean is everything's good. Everything's all tickety-boo. And in case you're wondering how it says, it's tickety-boo. Like scare, boo. And tickety, like time, I guess. Tickety-boo. That's how you could think about it. Not something that's super important, but just a little fun detail. Little cool phrasing that's in there saying. So the next thing I want to talk about is Mr. Curry in this movie. Now, he is kind of like the neighborhood watch, I guess you could say is the best way to describe it. Except he hates Paddington. The main reason why I'm bringing him up is he is played by the Doctor from Doctor Who. Not David Tennant, not Matt Smith, but the one after Matt Smith. So, I don't know what Doctor that is. I don't know his name, but he's played by a Doctor from Doctor Who, and I just think that's very cool that I see an actor that I like. And we'll get to Knuckles McGinty very soon, but he's played by an actor who played in Harry Potter, which I believe this was produced by the same people who made Harry Potter, so it's not too shocking there. But anyway, he hates Paddington, and this is going to lead me into the next thing I want to talk about. Paddington makes or breaks the communities in this movie, and what I say about that is Paddington kind of is like the life. Not the life source, but the bricks in the wall, if you will, of this community. He's that last brick that keeps the wall standing, if you will, or the Jenga tower, if you know what Jenga is. You take that one wrong wooden thing out of the Jenga tower, and the whole tower comes down. He's the one keeping the tower standing. He's the one keeping the wall intact. Everyone has something that Paddington helps them with in the community, and it's really a really powerful message, and it's not message, just really powerful to see. Cause without him, there's a section of the movie where they don't have him, and everyone starts falling apart. They show, the very beginning of the movie, they show Paddington going through and helping out everybody with something. The one that sticks out to me the most is this guy who comes out of his house, and Paddington's like, hello, blah, blah, blah. I just don't remember his name. Hello, blah, blah, blah. You didn't forget your keys, did you? My keys. And he starts padding around, and then his door's closing. He turns around and stops the door from closing. He's like, thank you, Paddington. And he saved him from being locked out of his house. Well, later in the movie, the exact same thing happens, except he's not fast enough and gets locked out of his house. That right there is very good symbolism for this community and what Paddington is. He's the marmalade between the bread. The marmalade sandwich. He's the marmalade keeping, in between the two pieces of bread. If you don't know, Paddington loves marmalade, so I'm trying to make very very good references to Paddington. Paddington 1, I guess Paddington 2 mainly, and here in Paddington himself. So, and that's important. And this guy, Mr. Curry, hates him. No particular reason, just kind of does. And he even says something at the end. He's like, we don't want him here. That's not what his accent is, but he's like, we don't want him here, and it's not true. Everyone but him wants him there. And it's extremely true. When he goes somewhere, and he's in a place with not very normally likable people. I don't want to spoil where he is, just because I'm trying to keep some stuff a mystery so you guys can experience the movie. But he goes to a place where you would normally not find likable people. Normally, kind of hatred and like troubled people. It's not a hospital. But troubled people who have done things not so likable. Hopefully that's not too on the nose. But he turns this place right around. Even the most hated person, which is Knuckles McGinty, speaking of, it's coming around, which is a very good symbolism for the movie. But he turns everyone around to liking him and becoming friends. And that is kind of the power of Paddington, if you will. He's just that way. And as Aunt Lucy always says, that if you look hard enough, you'll find the good or the kindness or the good in all people. One of those two, I kind of hopefully said it as close as possible. But it's a very good message. It's a very good message to spread, especially now during our time, even though this was made back in 2018. It's a very good message to spread. Look for the good in everybody. Even not in the most likable people sometimes. You might be able to find some good. Now, I don't think that's entirely 100% true to real life. There's a lot of people, if not a lot, the minority of people who aren't that way. And there are some people where you will never be able to find the good in them. And unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is. So not all tickety-boo. But it's okay. Paddington made everything tickety-boo. Let's see. Oh, also Paddington Station. Just a quick note. They go to Paddington Station toward the end of the movie. Pretty cool. And now the thing. Hold on. While we're on the topic of McGinty, they're in a little bit of a kind of like a cafeteria setting, and kind of like a watchful eye over the cafeteria. Let's say like authority figure. I'm trying to hide where this place is, even though you saw the trailer. So a guard. I'll say a guard. I don't know what to do. I played the trailer at the beginning, so most likely you already know, and I'm just trying to hide all this. But whatever. A guard. A guard makes a joke. Knuckles McGinty is the most like feared person in this place, and he goes up to him and talks to him about his cooking. And Knuckles McGinty's basically ready to break him in half. And when Paddington first walks up, the guard says, "Can you send in a medic?" And then when once he gets Knuckles very, very upset, he picks him up, and the guard's like, "Forget the medic. Send in a priest." I don't know why it's so funny, but that is a good joke. I like that a lot. That's a fun one. And then when they're cooking, they're going to be cooking marmalade sandwiches. And another great joke I loved is Paddington's trying to end up taking all the sacks of oranges over to where he needs to get them at one time, and they fall off the shelf. And then Knuckles comes over and he's like, "Well, take them one at a time." And then you see Paddington carrying one orange at a time, counting. I love it. It's really good. It's all tickety-boo there. So that's really good. And then let me check. Let me make sure I got all my notes before I go on to my last thing. But I think the most important thing in this movie that I liked, first off, just quickly, because I touched on it, was that he held the community together. And Paddington is that. He's the marmalade in the sandwich. He's, the honey. He keeps things together. And this community felt lost without him. They all wanted him back. And it's very powerful. And I like that. But the last thing I have is my gripe in the movie. And I noticed this. So this treasure, the villain finds out where this treasure is after a long search. And the way you do this treasure, it's in this kind of like player piano type thing. And there are these buttons that correspond to notes. And he has to find the notes. And he starts pressing the buttons in the correct order with the notes. First off, I hardly believe that through however many years this was, which I'm pretty sure is quite a few years, that no one once tried pressing those buttons in a specific order to unlock where the treasure was. Just saying. On top of that as well, the buttons work like a trial and error type thing. If you've ever played a hidden object game before, there are these puzzles of trial and error where you have to press, like, let's say there's 6 switches, right? And you have to press them in a certain order. You flip the first switch, and then it goes down. You flip the third switch, it goes up. Then flip the first one, and both of them go down. But then you flip the third and the sixth, and they're both up. And you have to try to get them all up. It's like that. If you look carefully in the movie, he starts pressing one button. He presses D, it lights up. He presses a different button, it doesn't light up. He presses D again, goes to another one, doesn't light up, because he lost the thing that had all the letters in it, which also, I'm pretty sure he would have remembered at least some of the order. But if he had just kept on trying, he would have been able to problem solve what order they went in. So everything after that point is kind of just, it just hurt to watch, because if they were to, like, with everything going back around in this movie, I kind of wished that they would have seen that and been like, yeah, maybe we should design this a little bit differently. Maybe we should none of the lights light up or anything, And it's just like pressing the buttons and nothing happens. Because he could have problem solved that out. Because, to be fair, they don't show it, but my guess is, actually, I think they did when he types them the first time, they all start glowing green. So all he has to do is just go through until all of them light green. So basically, this entire movie didn't need to happen, because he could have just gone to this place in the first place and then started pressing buttons until he got them in a specific order. So it's kind of like, why didn't he just do that in the first place? It could have saved a lot of people a lot of trouble. And the only reason why I bring it up is because this movie literally has everything come back around. And I'm not saying that lightly. Almost everything, if not everything that I can think of, comes back around. And this is the one thing that has a flaw. Now, to be fair, I guess, I'm sure there's other flaws you could see in the movie. I just didn't see them. But to be fair, I guess you could say that that's not a huge deal. And to be honest, it isn't. Because with everything else coming back around in this movie, that little detail, no one's going to care about. But in the same way, I kind of feel like I should note it. Because of how well this movie is everywhere else. That little detail that doesn't come back around, I feel should be quite noticeable. Or maybe I'm overthinking it. But I will cut it a little bit slack, because the movie is pretty damn funny. So apparently I just swore. I don't count that as a swear word. So, kid friendly. I said dang. That's what I said. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Pretty dang funny. Hopefully I don't get a fine. Apparently you can actually get a fine if you mislabel a video. If you mislabel a video as kid friendly and it's not, then you could get fined money, which is incredibly stupid. But anyway, so I think I've covered basically everything on my list without spoiling the movie too much here. But it's a really well-made movie, and there's a lot of good that happens in this movie. It's very, very tickety-boo. But I just kind of feel like... No, I don't feel like anything. It's a good movie. I highly recommend you watch it if you can. It's a very funny. Now, also, please note, there are some sad portions. Now, not anything too drastic, but I cried. And with a movie that is so happy, it does have some down points. And I only note that because I feel like when going into this movie, you might be extremely happy. Like, I'm looking right now on Microsoft, it has 4 out of 5 stars. Which actually, it's more like 3 and 7/8. 3 and 7/8 stars. Because there's a very edge of the star isn't there. But with 125 reviews on there, again, that's probably about 88%, I'd say, equivalent to what Rotten Tomatoes says. It's a really well-made movie. I'd give it a shot. Now, you don't need to see Paddington 1 before you watch Paddington 2, but if you can, it won't hurt. It won't hurt at all. But it is a very well-made movie, made in 2018, PG, is available in ultra high definition on streaming, hour 44 minutes, family. It is labeled as family, which is interesting. Well, it's interesting because it is a family movie. I want to check something. Hold on. This is not to do with this movie review, but I do want to look it up. Sorry, I want to look up something. Oh, will it not tell me? No, it does tell me. Queen's Corgi is labeled as a family movie. Action adventure, family. And it has 72 reviews at 4 stars. I just want to say to the person who donated for this, because I know you're watching, Queen's Corgi actually has a higher review with less people on Microsoft than Paddington 2. Just saying. It's just a tad bit more, but funny. Anyway, so that made me happy. But this movie is by far, I'd still say probably better than Queen's Corgi, just because of all the details coming back around. But here's my ideology on why I'm going to give this rating. If I give everything 10 out of 10, it's not going to be... It's going to make my reviews not seem like they mean anything. Now, the only reason I am going to take this down is because of the thing I mentioned. It's only going to be a little bit, but I'm going to do it. With a movie that brings everything around, that one little detail for me is kind of what struck me a little bit odd. And I think the first time I watched this, and the second time, I believe this is the third time I've seen this movie, and it was a while ago that I watched the first 2 times. But when I watched them both the first 2 times, I believe that stood out to me both times, and it bugged me both times. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this 4.5 stars out of 5 and a 9 out of 10, respectively. It's only because of that little detail, and my reasoning is because with a movie that has so much going on for it and literally brings back almost everything, that one little detail really got me hung up. And on top of it, the villain could have been stronger, could have taken himself a little bit more seriously. He is kind of crazy, so you know what, 9.5 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10, and 4.5 stars. Yeah, there you go. That's better. The villain aspect, I guess, is what you will. But, you know what? No. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 10. That's what I'm going to go with. Because when I was thinking about my Queen's Corgi movie review and how I said it's a family movie, it's not meant to be a masterpiece. This movie ends up being closer to what a masterpiece might be. I just think that because it's labeled as a kids movie, family movie, that it won't ever get the recognition that I think it deserves. So, yeah, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. Yeah, so I highly recommend watching this movie. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it. It is a good movie. It is really good. But also watch Queen's Corgi. But anyway, so hopefully you guys have liked this. Hopefully the person who donated and is watching this, hopefully you have liked this review. Hopefully I did a good job, and hopefully you got your money's worth. But take it with a grain of salt when you watch family movies. If there are any people who are like critically heavy on movies watching this, take with a grain of salt. Sometimes there are bad kids movies and family movies, but take it with a grain of salt. People work hard to make these movies, and this one, if you don't like Paddington 2, tell me why in the comment. Well, you can't. Try to tell me why somehow. Why? Message in the discussion section of the YouTube channel if you didn't like this movie. And tell me why, because I find it very hard that people would not like this movie. I mean, I guess if you don't like comedies, maybe you wouldn't like it, but this movie has a lot going for it, and the camera work is really, really good. There's actually the scene, last thing I'll mention, there's a scene when they're in this cafeteria area, and things are popping in. I know that's technically CGI, but things are popping in, and it's like one long shot that goes through the kitchen area and then out to the actual dining area, and all these things are popping in as they go on, like tables and chairs and stuff on them, decorations around, and even through the rest of the place they do that, and that's really cool. It's a really good camera at work. And then the CGI, the Paddington looks like a real bear. There's a movie I saw recently which I might do a review for called The Mad Hatter. That's it. And in that movie, the CGI at some parts looked like, and now to be fair, this company probably had a lot more money to make this than the people who made the Mad Hatter, because I've never heard of that company who made it. So to be fair, but I'm not going to go too into it, because that movie I believe is rated R, so I'm not going to go too in depth into that movie. But the CGI looked like it was a filter you'd use on Snapchat or Instagram. And it was quite silly because someone stuck out their hands like, oh, fire. But it looked like a filter. It looked like it was made in iMovie or After Effects. And probably even worse than After Effects. So CGI is not something that everyone can do. So I appreciate that the bear looked real. And all the CGI looked real. It looked like it would be possible to happen. So hopefully I didn't bug to anybody that I brought up the Mad Hatter in here. I'm not going too in detail to it, because again, this is a completely different movie, but I just wanted to point out the CGI. Good comparison. So anyway, that is going to do it for this movie review on Paddington 2. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed. Again, I hope that the person who donated, hopefully you got your money's worth. Hopefully I made a memorable review for you. And again, good Knuckles McGinty. Yeah, got that. Took me a little while, but I got it. Yeah, so keep an eye out for more movie reviews as we go forward. I actually recorded one for a series that I'm going to start doing of movie reviews. So hopefully I can get that going. But I do know that the movie reviews tend to get some more views on the channel, which means more people watch them. Hopefully enjoy them. I know that you guys probably watch to decide if you want to watch the movie or not. But I do hope that you guys do like these, and hopefully I can give you some entertainment. I'm not one huge for views, but if I see stuff that gets views, I like to do them because I hope that people who watch them enjoy them. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.